We do appreciate you coming, especially out in this weather with your bum knee, so thank you for
I'm
coming.
honored to be here, so thank you. Let's pray. Dear Father, as we gather here tonight at Perry and the council chambers, we invite you into our presence, Lord. We thank you, Lord, for the privilege of meeting, for that freedom that we have to be together, Lord, and to discuss the things that are important, the things that are beneficial for the city of Perry, Lord. And we just ask, Lord, that you would take charge of this meeting. Thank you, God, for your amazing grace, for your abiding presence in each one of us. In Christ's name, amen.
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 Thank you so much. Be careful going out, don't slip and fall.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Hey, Bob.
Good evening.
I knew you were coming in, I said your name 3 times.
She did her chant.
Well, I think this is everyone. So, being 7 o'clock, I'll call the meeting to order and invite you to say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Devin, would you take a roll call, please?
Randy Coffey. Mike Connell. Minnie Gallivan. Here. Larry Lambert.
Here.
Bob Porter.
Here.
Steve Wallace.
Here.
Mayor Sue Hammond.
Here.
All is accounted for except for Randy Coffey and Mike Connell.
And I'm looking now for approval of the agenda.
I move the agenda be adopted as printed.
Second.
As moved by Larry, seconded by Bob, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. And now looking for reading and approval of the minutes of the previous meeting, which was January 6th.
I move that we suspend the rules, waive the reading, and approve the minutes from the January 6th, 2022 regular meeting.
Second.
As moved by Steve and seconded by Larry, all those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Do we have any pre-approved reports or presentations tonight? I don't believe we do, so we'll move on there to public comment. Is there anyone here that would like to come forward to the lectern and make any public comment? If you would like to, you have 3 minutes. If you want your name in the minutes, please state your name and address. Looks like you have a sore knee also, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I said it looks like you have a sore knee also.
Yes, my military career was rough on my body.
Okay. All right.
I'm Matthew Shepard. I'm in Perry Township, and I have run for several positions within the county and as a representative and county commissioner as well. I'm here directly tonight to present with you a petition that we had approved last October and previously by the Elections Bureau to recall Commissioner John Plowman for his activity with others to give bonuses to county officials and themselves in excess of $20,000 to $25,000 at high peaks. If you're interested, I'll stick around and either sign the petition yourselves, or if you'd like to help with getting petition signatures. What they did was egregious. They were ordered by Genesee County to refund the money back to the allotment, but egregious actions also come with criminal activity by going behind closed doors and conducting a meeting outside of the public's view. that's also written in here, along with the MCL, that they were not allowed to take additional money as elected officials. That's about all I have.
Okay, well, thank you, Matthew, thanks for coming in. Anyone else have public comment? Hello?
Hello. All right. My name is Joshua Carpenter. I moved out to Perry in 2015 from St. John's, and I started attending the city council meetings about 3 years later in 2018, and been off and on since then. And I'm here to encourage you to do a little bit better. It might sound like I'm attacking you, and it's not my intent. My intent is to encourage you to raise the standard. What I mean by that is if we go back to some comments that were made shortly after or around the marijuana proposal. To the mayor, you had mentioned that unless someone spent time and focused and read it prior to their vote, you didn't think that they maybe even understood what they were voting on. And that was an insult to a lot of us. If you would have spent some time reading the Perry public Facebook page, you would know that most of the people there did not take that comment very well. When shortly after that comment, on the 2nd of December, that you mentioned people didn't feel like they were voting for anything more than a single medical marijuana dispensary in the city. And there was a young lady here, Nicole, that had asked you how many people had called and said that. And you said no one. It's important that we feel represented, but when you speak for us, it's important that that speech includes everybody's opinions. There was a point at one point, I can't remember the gentleman's name, where he stated that he felt like the council was taking steps against the voter. This is what you're going, I'm sorry, that they had voted on it. In a sense, we're going to go against the will of the people. Yeah, you guys voted for this, but too bad we don't agree with you. He went on to state it may not have been done correctly, but it did go on the ballot and people voted and people said, yes, we want this. So now we're going to say, no, you can't have it. And one of the comments you made was you didn't think it was right. You didn't appreciate the statement on it. And you thought it was facetious, flipped, and very incorrect. But again, if you would have seen the comments from the people, it was absolutely correct. It's how we felt. That doesn't mean we all disagree with the decision. After the email was released from the Attorney General showing why the Home Rule City Act had an issue with it, a lot of people did not understand that when you're changing the actual role of the government, even if it's a local one, there's a whole other committee that's involved. And a lot of people didn't understand that step. And so when another person commented on the council, it should have been done the right way. People should have came to us. People did in the past. When the last time we voted in 2008, and the majority of Perry supported that, the very next day, then city mayor and city council passed an ordinance outlining it. So the people have tried, and they did comment, and they showed up, and they made it clear they're not happy with that decision. And meetings later, nothing ever happened. So the next step was right. The people took it upon themselves not to sit and have more conversations with a council that they didn't believe was even going to do anything. So the goal is to encourage you, not to just blow off opinions that you might think don't matter, but to also educate. That email, for example, when I first heard the comments and watched the council vote to overturn it and to challenge it, I was very upset. But when the email was finally released, that explanation alone, you have my full support. You absolutely should challenge it because that key step is important. But that information should have been more clearly explained to the people. This is why we're doing it. This step is important. This step was missed. It has absolutely nothing to do with, we think we're overturning your votes. We don't want you to think that. We just want it done the right way. So I encourage you to raise that bar because I've held off on coming. When I saw how you made that comment to your fellow person, my concern was if that's how you're going to treat the fellow person that you work with, how are you going to treat me? And I know that when I sent an email out back in November, you were the only one that did reply. So I thank you for that. Even though we disagree on the opinions that were shared, I do thank you that you replied. But just raise that bar. Communicate better with the people because not everyone knows all of those little details. And when you have to sit down and filter through emails and you find that one thing and you're like, if they would have just said that, that would have relieved most of the upset feelings.
Josh, we appreciate you coming in today. And you said you're from where?
I used to live in St. John's,
And you live now
in Perry,
in the city of?
Perry.
You live
I
in the
live in
city?
Perry.
Your address? Did you want that in the minute?
No.
Okay. Anybody have any questions, comments for
I do.
Josh?
Yes.
Mindy?
Back when the recreational marijuana was voted in, I was present at most of those meetings. I was present at the hearing that they had the next day with concerns about whether or not to allow it. And it was my understanding that the biggest thing was there was so much up in the air with the laws. And it was really complicated and hard to understand. And one of the reasons they chose to hold off on allowing it was, let's let the state get this stuff worked out before we get in the middle of it. And I'm talking about the laws and how everything was going to operate. And combined with the majority of the people at that meeting were not in favor of having one. There was a couple people, but the majority were not in favor of it. And I have attended most meetings, and I'm not saying I don't hit them all, you know, before I got on council and like that, you know, from that time. And I don't recall anyone ever coming and asking us to revisit that.
If you, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
If you go back on, I don't know if they're still up, but under the previous mayor, there actually used to be a set of tables over here, and I spoke then about their very next day meeting. Nothing says we don't care when the mayor the very next day with the council says, we know you voted on it, but no. And at that point, just at that point, there was no explanation given. People had to wait 3 more weeks for the next meeting for the mayor to come out and say, we have some concerns about the laws. And so that's the, up the communication. That's all.
Agreed.
There's, you know, like I said, when that email came out, and I had a chance to go through it, a lot of it didn't make any sense. But then the attorney clarified, because you're changing the form of government, it's one thing for the people to say, we want to change the noise ordinance. But when they're changing the form of government, hey, you have to follow this step. And if that would just have been communicated, I think a lot more people would have said, hey, you know what, good on them for doing it. Because if they didn't do it this time, then what happens when somebody does try to do something very wrong? You know, so it is a good thing to see you do it now that that information has come out and people are able to hear it and read it and know it. But I just, for the record, I did come up then and to say that I did not appreciate that action either.
My fault. I
No, it's okay.
didn't see it every meeting, and I don't remember everything, so.
Again, we appreciate you coming. I have to call your time, but we appreciate your coming, and we'll take your comments under advisement.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any others for public comment? Communications, Devin?
I have a few. I'm going to start with, there is counsel that had worked with our labor attorney, Tom Dadarian. I'm here to report that he snuck out and retired on us as of December 31st of 2021. We are still with Buck & Associates, that's who Tom was with, but I just wanted to share that with you. Another thing that I put in your agenda packets, and it has to do with the MAMC Institute. They have a program that's college credit. It is a cost, It's a 3-year curriculum to be able to do it. And I had shared with the mayor that I would like to, not this spring, but it would be next spring, start this curriculum. So it would be something that I would put in front of you in the budget. And although the first curriculum, I believe a lot of it is going to be repetition, it's a lot of the basic. They can always add with new laws that are coming into it. And then it gets even more intense the next 2 years. And they do this in a 3-year program. This will be here every time, and the credits will be 3 years. So I'm hoping you will support it. My reasoning behind waiting so long to take on this is, to be quite honest, it always ran in during my daughter's sports, and this the city has always supported me, not only as a clerk, but as a mother. And so I wasn't gonna take my time during them winning their games. Just if you're curious of why I've waited this long, that was my reasoning on it. And I would like to learn more and give more to the city by taking this in the future. So this will come up again with budget, but the mayor thought it was important that I discuss it and show you what I would like to do.
Thank you.
I have I do have a council member here that I gave them a memo. IRS requires that you update your W-4 whenever that you ask for your exemptions to be other than 0. And so I've given you the memo and the deadline, and I had brought the information if you're wondering what you had, and a new form, and you can get with me after the meeting or another time, and I will get that to you if you would like to update that. Also, if you wouldn't mind, I gave you a form about the following council terms are expiring this year. Please make a note. I have my formal notice that's going out publishing on the correct date is April 19th, not April 22nd. I believe that date just got held and I didn't catch it when I updated this. So I will report the following council terms are expiring this year. Mindy Galloway, Randy Coffey, Mike Connell. These are 4-year full terms. New terms would expire if you shall go for these terms, December 1st of 2026. Steve Wallace's term, this is a 2-year partial term. This term would go through December 1st of 2024. The mayor's term, which also expires, and this is a 2-year term that will expire out on 2024. There are nominating petitions available, and feel free to come in. By law, I can't publish or post that information, but I do try to report. The law doesn't say that you can't start the petitions, it just tells me when I can tell the paper it. And again, afterwards, if you would like, I have brought blank petitions, affidavits, and I've also given you an example pages that I can give you to help you take them home and fill them out if you are interested. Please note, when there is a partial term in 4-year terms, you do not have to go for what you are in. You can make a choice of whether you want to run in the 2-year term or the 4-year term. But we have 4 council seats that are going to be open and 1 mayor seat that will be open. And this will go to a primary if double of the, more than double would actually run for the seats. Otherwise, if it doesn't, and in my history, and we've never had an August primary for mayor or council, you will be on the November ballot. So this must be done thinking that it's going to the August ballot, and the deadline that it must be to my office is April 19th by 4 p.m.
Mine is a 2-year. I don't know if it matters.
Yours is not. You ran for a 2-year, now it is a full 4-year. There is a rotation, and I can show you the,
Didn't know that.
and I can show you that. So I was joking around with the mayor, and I'm like, look at all this stuff, and I literally do an outline so I know where you're replacing, because it always has to, 3 or 4 years, and then the next 2 years, another 4 years. So you took that partial, finished it off, and now you are landing in a 4-year term. But that doesn't mean you have to. You're just landing now in a 4-year, ending it as a 4-year term. I'd love to show you, it's so fun.
Well, thank you for keeping me straight.
Oh, it's so fun, it's so fun. I pulled this
It's
paper
a
out.
job, I know.
I pulled this paper out, and Judy had this rainbow paper she started, and I'm still using it. It's pretty fun. I believe that was all that I had. Let me see. Oh, one last thing, I'm sorry. There are a few things that the council has suggested and talked about, so I'm going to give you these dates to ponder. Any kind of local proposals that the council wants to consider to put on the coming elections that I know that are definite is the August and November. So if you want a local proposal, it must be to the county clerk May 10th. That means it's been to your city attorney, he's created the resolution, it's been to your council and it's approved, and you've gotten it to me so that I can get it to the county clerk, and I am allowed to do it electronically by 4 p.m. So May 10th is the date to hit for it to be on the August election. And then for the November, same as what I just discussed applies, is August 16th. Now I think I'm done.
Okay. The only reports that I have is just to let you know, and I did forward you a communication we had from the Community District Library indicating to us that even though our requirements for our representative would allow Mike to continue to serve on the board even though he moved out of the city, their bylaws do not allow that. So he can no longer serve on the library board and will have to appoint another representative. So if anybody out there in video land is interested in serving on the library board, please let me know. I'd like to get that appointment made. Jamie Cromley, the director there, has asked us to expedite that choice, so we'll see what we can do. The other thing I just wanted to mention, although we have really no control over, is our snow sculpture contest. If we don't have snow, we can't have the contest, but
Gotta go up north.
yeah, you'd have to bring your snowman down here though, because we have to judge him down here. So if it snows, hurry quick and get registered with the city, because we do have awards for everyone who participates, and then 4 categories for our bigger awards. So hopefully we'll get enough snow on one day and we'll be able to do that contest. That's everything I have under mayor reports. We'll move to committee reports.
I'll quickly update a couple of things. First off, just to let everyone know, the Finance and Ordinance Committee will be meeting again on Friday, the 28th of this month at 1 p.m. here in council chambers to continue our work on development of the medical marijuana ordinance that we've been working on. So that is, date and time are posted and available for anyone that would like to come and participate. And I've got some good news to report. I've been reporting along the way for the Business Affairs and Technology Committee that we have successfully launched our new city website, thanks to a lot of work by the Shoemaker Group, Kyle Shoemaker and everyone here on city staff. I'm very pleased personally with the kind of work that went into the new website. And we will do a quick demo at the end of this evening's meeting for anyone that can stay or wants to watch it on video. We'll just do that at the end of the meeting. But I think it turned out quite well. It took a little longer than I had hoped for, but the results, I think, have borne fruit. Thank you.
Anyone else?
I don't have a report, but I would like to make a request. I'd like to, there's, in communication with Devin and looking into our charter, there's no reason I need to have Parks and Property on my committee. I'd like to change the name to just Perry Parks.
Okay. I have,
It gets a little lengthy.
yeah. Devin brought that to me after she talked to you, and she said, should we put it as an agenda item, because we really already had the agenda out? So I said, how about if we talk about that under any other business that may come
That's
to
fine.
council? I'd like to revisit all of those titles, because a lot of them are like that. And when we set them up, when I set them up, when I first became mayor, I just took committees that were already established, but we can change those titles. We can maybe even eliminate some of those committees, I think. So we'll talk about that
Okay.
when we get to that spot, if that's all right.
That's fine, thank you.
Okay, yeah. Anybody else? Mindy?
I have a report from personnel. Unfortunately, one of our DPW employees has decided to work elsewhere. So we are in the process of filling his position, and we're just currently seeking a replacement for him, and we're working on that because we can't be shorthanded. So hopefully we get people putting in apps, so.
I believe they have the hire notice prepared now.
Yeah.
Devin and John have been working on that. So that'll be posted on our website for anyone that's interested. We would love to hear from you.
Yeah, John has done a really good job putting together criteria and that sort of thing for a posting. And so,
Thank you for that. Moving on then to presentation and approval of the bills.
I move to approve the bills as presented and that payment be authorized.
second.
As moved by Larry and seconded by Mindy, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, nay. Motion passes. Old business has nothing listed there, so we'll move into new business. And our first topic to look at is the resignation we received from Randy Coffey, the possible acceptance of that resignation.
I move that we accept the resignation of Councilmember Randy Coffey and extend our appreciation for his service.
Second.
It's been moved by Bob and seconded by Steve to accept with regrets his resignation of Randy's and extend our appreciation for his service. All those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And those opposed, nay. Motion passes. The next item of mayor's appointments, I don't have any yet. So I'm looking for someone to fill the now vacant council member seat of Randy Coffey. So if anyone is interested in that position, it will just be through this term and will end with the election in November. The person that's appointed could choose to run for that office, but their term as the appointed official would end at that time. Also, as I mentioned, we'll be looking for someone to serve on the library board. And our next new business item is to discuss / report regarding the grant writer grantsmanship or grantmanship. James Hissong is his name. I will just let you know, Megan, our treasurer, gave me just an email today that Devin asked her to provide the information about the status on that grant that he did apply for us in November, and she checked on that, and she says that that grant, the MDARD grant we applied for in November, has had no movement yet. Per their website, an evaluation meeting of applications is taking place this month in January, and award funding will be announced late February. So that's just in process. I have been in touch with James a few times. He sends out a grant newsletter about once a month with just topics of anything new that's come up or he thinks might fit our wish list that I sent him. And if there is anything of interest there, I ask him to check on it, but truly, the biggest ones are for water and sewer. And John has shared with me that if it is a big project for water and sewer, that he would prefer to have those grants written by the engineering company that would be working on the project, or estimating the project. And I think that certainly makes sense, so just so you're aware of that. But the other things, he's looking for city sidewalk repair grants related to this replacement and installation of new sidewalks. Possibly if there is a grant available to assist us with purchasing a building in the future for a better library site. Although we've got improvements going on in the library now, so I think it's going to be very nice. I saw a sketch of what it was going to look like. Creation of downtown parking. I don't know how we would accomplish it, by magic perhaps, but if there's a grant that would help us get that. Any grant-related things for parks, play equipment, fencing, paths, benches, gardens, things for the city-owned planters and parks. I did, just so you know, send a letter out to the railroad and sent them a little brief history of how integral the Grand Trunk Railroad has been to the history of Perry, and just asked them if they would consider some money our way, grant money our way, tree money our way, whatever they might have. I haven't heard from them, but I have sent that out. Improved electronic security systems is another thing we ask them to watch for. And I think that's about it, because the rest of the wish list had to do with sewer and water, and John has expressed that desire, so I think we need to honor that. Any other questions or comments anybody'd like to make regarding the grant writer?
Other than we just keep in mind that as things come up, we've got, we're contracting for that service right now, so I think we need to make certain that, it's paying some dividends for us,
Yes.
the long term here.
The other thing, and I'm glad you mentioned that, it did come up that there was grant money available for first responders training and equipment. So I sent that, forwarded it to Chief Hubbard and also to our CISA representatives, and after communication with Chief Hubbard, he did email James Hissong, and he might be collaborating with them for an application for a grant. I told him that we could potentially help cover some of that cost with our monthly amount that we've got set aside for that. So if that should come to pass, certainly I would come back to you and get permission to do that, but I did offer that. Anything else?
I was just gonna say that was a really good idea, approaching the railroad. Like you said, the history.
Well, I was just sitting there in my office upstairs and that train keeps going by all the time and I thought, well, maybe we need to be talking with them, but thanks. Our next agenda item is discussion regarding that property that is on M52 south of town. We talked about this back in July, that Mark Mosier had expressed interest to John Souter in purchasing that odd-shaped piece. I think you all have that drawing in front of you. It's adjacent to his property. He, Mark Mosier, has been mowing it ever since his business moved out there, and that's how he was why he was communicating with John, because John was going out to mow it, and he said, hey, I don't mind mowing it, I'm right here, you know, my mower's going that way anyway, and he said I'd be interested in buying that. Well, when we talked about it and we checked with the attorney, we found out that the city can purchase property without any vote, but they can't sell it without a vote. So,
Let me correct that.
okay,
The reason why it has to go to a vote is how it was purchased.
yes, and I was going to finish that.
I'm
So,
sorry.
That's okay.
I didn't want him to think that we can't sell any property, because we did Britton Pines, and I don't want anybody watching saying we did.
Yeah.
Sorry.
This property was purchased with the intent of using it for a well site, or at least testing for a well site. So money from the water department, is that the
Yes,
correct way to say that?
yes, yes.
From the water department was used to purchase that. So because of that, we have to ask for voter approval to sell that property. So if we do, as a council, want to move ahead and do that, we have to place that on the ballot. Open for discussion.
Did the city look to see if there was viable water there for a well site?
That was before my time.
Chuck's investigated that over and over again, and actually used the property and got permission from IDES to even check behind the property.
So it's not a viable water source for the city?
It's my understanding, no.
It was after that that they purchased our second well site, which is now on Ellsworth Road. We're purchasing that on a land contract.
Do you have any idea, Devin, the approximate cost to go through the balloting process to put this before the voters?
An election itself, it cost the city about $1,500 to $2,000. But we're gonna pay that anyways if you put it on an August or November election. It's state elections this year, and so you don't get all of the brunt of it, but yeah, now's the year to do something, so then you're not paying the whole cost of all of
Right.
the election.
But piggybacking on the already planned elections, it's still $1,500 to $2,000 for the city.
Yeah.
And I think the price we were offered at least was, what, $4,000 for the property?
$4,000. And that he's agreed to pay $4,000 and cover the closing costs. So for title insurance, paperwork, filing fees, probably $1,000 of that.
But we'd net the city $2,000 to $2,500 if we sold it. Roughly.
Yes, yeah, yeah. It's an odd-shaped piece.
Yeah, there's not much that they're gonna be able to use it for.
Right. It's limited road frontage, just the way that it was shaped. It does not have city water and sewer to it. It doesn't have any utilities there. My experience in real estate from years ago would say to me that the only value in this piece is to an adjoining landowner. And the value then becomes, what are they willing to pay? You know, it's difficult to do a market analysis or an assessment even on a property of this type, because to try to compare it to other sales, which is how you do that, there just isn't any. So,
I just wanted to make sure, oh, I'm sorry, go ahead, Mindy.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to make certain that we weren't gonna have a net loss to the city if we did go through the balloting process, et cetera. And I'm not saying 4,000 would be what we get for it, you're right, we're probably not gonna get a great deal for it, but I didn't wanna go negative simply to say we're gonna try to sell
and that's true, we don't have to sell it.
it. Right.
It's just sitting there. The only cost to us basically is for the mowing, and right now mowers are mowing it.
My point was though, if we like to go through with getting permission, it doesn't mean that we've gotta agree to 4,000. Doesn't mean
No,
we're gonna
that's
get a great deal more than that, but at least we know that we probably wouldn't go negative in terms of posturing the city to sell it either to Mosier's or to someone else that we don't have identified right now.
So would that piece, if sold to Moser, would it stay city? That
Yeah.
little chunk would stay?
Yes, it would stay city, absolutely, yeah.
Just 'cause
Unless he were petitioned to have it annexed to the township or something, but, yeah, it doesn't change its, location. You know, yes, it stays in the city whether he owns it or somebody else owns it, yeah.
You know, unless there's some viable utility use for it, that doesn't sound like there is for the city in the foreseeable future.
Another park.
Pardon? Another park, yes.
It's about big enough for a swing set,
I've
right?
heard Bob comment.
Everybody looks at Bob.
Sell it, take the $4,000, that's what it was.
There we go, yeah, there we go.
But
That's a
actually,
good
the
idea.
money should go into the water fund.
Yeah, it does, it
For the
has
water
to.
tower or
Yeah.
expansion, or paying part down the land contract on the well number 2.
Yeah, right, that
One
would
of
be a
those
good
things.
place for it to go, but yeah, it has to go into the water fund.
Yeah, my view would be, given that we've got an August and a November election coming up, that would at least mitigate some of the costs to put it before the voters, I'd be inclined to say, let's go ahead and at least get it in front of the voters and hopefully get a positive affirmation that we have approval to move forward to sell it. That's the first step.
Yeah.
And then we can decide what the value of it is. We decide not to accept Mosier's offer, we've still got ourselves postured to be able to sell it and not decide a year from now that, oops, we need to get it on the ballot.
Yeah, that's true. Devin, what would we need to do this? Do we need a motion from council to request the attorney draft some language, or how do we move ahead to do this?
In my opinion, you can have an overall not consensus, and I would put in the minutes that they have directed the mayor to move forward, to ask the city attorney to put this on whatever ballot, but they're always entitled to make a motion and make it formal.
I would feel better with a motion and a vote so that we have a record who's an in favor or not in favor. If somebody feels comfortable in making that motion tonight, otherwise we can table it and bring it back again next meeting.
I'll take a crack at it since I've been doing the talking. I move that we authorize the city clerk and mayor to move forward with the development of the necessary language and required to put forth a ballot proposal that would authorize the city to have the latitude for potential sale of said piece of property.
Can you please specify what election? Is that,
For the November 2022 election.
thank you.
I'll second that.
As moved by Larry and seconded by Steve, all those in favor of that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Motion passes. So we'll get in contact with our attorney, Justin English, and get some language together and bring it back to council. Any other business that may come before council? Bob Porter proposes eliminating the part of the title from the Parks Committee. Let's look at all these
We're gonna
committees,
receive the
standing
copy.
committees. This is a lot of time for our council, and it's time that most residents don't realize the council puts in. To serve on the ordinance, now called the Finance and Ordinance Committee. Since I have become mayor, I know that committee has met at least once a month, if not sometimes 3 times a month, depending on what they were working on. And it's not just the time in the committee meeting, but when they're revising an ordinance or establishing a new ordinance, somebody, typically the chairman at this time, who's Larry, goes to a computer and spends a lot of time changing that language around, bringing it back then to a committee for approval to go to the attorney to approve or revise, to come back again to committee. So I mean, it's a lot of time. That one in particular is a lot of time. Our other very busy committee has been the Finance and Technology Committee, working on what we'll see a little bit later, the website, and trying to improve the communication with residents, city residents. It's difficult in this day and age of no longer having people using newspapers, and not everybody does Facebook, believe it or not. And so we've tried to establish some improved communication ways. So that is another committee that has spent a lot of time, especially in the last 6 months. The Parks Committee, now called Parks and Properties, they meet once a month, and I'm sure they've had extra meetings or extra time commitments when they've been working on projects. The other very busy committee is our Personnel Committee. During the time that we were interviewing for DPW superintendent, deputy superintendent, when our assessor left, we had to interview for a new assessor. When the treasurer was getting ready to retire, that committee was interviewing candidates for that position. So during the last year, that has been a very busy committee as well. So the standing committees, as they are right now, are Finance and Ordinance. Larry Lambert, Mindy Galby, and Mike Connell serve on that. Parks and Properties, Bob Porter's the chairman there, Mike Connell, and Randy Coffey was on that. That'll be open. And then we have a public member on that committee, and that's George Dunn. And then there's the Public Works, Health and Safety Committee. Mindy, Steve Wallace, and Bob Porter serve on that, but correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think you guys have met since that was brought back on as a standing committee, have you? Okay, so that doesn't meet often, hasn't met in the last year, over a year. Business Affairs and Technology Committee, that is the committee that has been working on the new website, and they were spending quite a bit of time this last summer, especially trying to meet with the business owners, going to their businesses, inviting them to meetings here, and that has been unfruitful, I guess is the best way to say it, as far as getting businesses to form some type of a group that would move things forward in the events aspect of the city or in any other way. There have been a few things that have happened, like the Halloween gathering, and that was great. And I think that kind of came out of that language, their participation in the Christmas fantasy was excellent, and that was a very wonderful event. The scarecrows that happened. So I think some of that participation came out of the business affairs, but it didn't really happen as a business or as a group. So I'm not sure that we need the business affairs part of that. It could just be the technology committee. Larry Lambert and Randy and Mindy were on that one. The personnel committee now is Mindy, Mike Connell, and was Randy. Then we have the labor negotiations committee, which has not met. Our union negotiations are done by our labor attorney and the police department labor attorney. Police commission committee, again, that's been in place since December of 2020, but that has not had a meeting that I'm aware of. And then our safety committee, which again has not had a meeting. So I would assume that the safety committee, the police commission committee, the labor negotiations committee could all be eliminated. And that the titles then to business affairs and technology could become just technology committee. The public works, health and safety committee, that could be eliminated because that hasn't met. And then the title for parks and properties committee could be just parks committee. And finance and ordinance committee could be known as ordinance committee, because we've never had any kind of finance part to that committee, have we, Larry? That I don't recall. Okay. So that would bring us, instead of 8 standing committees, we would only have 4. And with 3 council members on each one, that would be 12 positions that would need to be filled. We do have one other committee, and that's the Mcqueen House Committee, but that has met, it has met together with representatives from the Historical Society, and that's Mindy Galbavy as chair. I'm on that committee, and then Billy Roback and Terry Shansky from the Historical Society, and I think that can just stay in place, because we do have ongoing meetings and stuff that comes up. So, what are your thoughts on
Sure.
making those changes?
Can I offer a suggestion?
Yep.
Instead of eliminating all those, maybe combining some of them, like Public Works, Health and Safety, Police Commission, and Safety Law Enforcement Committee, all one committee. Instead of eliminating those. And my next suggestion would be Personnel Committee and Labor Negotiations. Used to be Labor Negotiations Committee was there with the city attorney when they did negotiations with the police.
Okay.
It was the mayor, the chief of police, the committee, and the city's attorney. So that would be my suggestion. I would move labor negotiations with the personnel and keep those.
But then, just, you're saying merge the titles together, Personnel Committee / Labor Negotiations Committee,
Correct,
but
Why?
just have 3 people on there.
correct.
I see.
Do you have to extend the, if you just call it either labor negotiations or personnel, it encompasses both. Kind of redundant to do both
Correct.
names, meaning.
Correct, personnel should be.
Cover, it should, that would cover
Cover
the
labor
negotiation.
Correct.
Oh, okay, but we wouldn't necessarily have to have the super long title.
Correct, it'd be
Okay.
personnel.
It would, Personnel Committee, but it would encompass the duties of the, I see what you're
Correct.
saying. Okay.
And the same with Public Works,
Oh,
police commission, and safety and law.
Those would just fall under public works.
okay.
You know, I would say safety.
Public Works
Public
Safety
safety.
Committee, or Public Safety
Public
Committee.
safety, correct.
And that would, basically those three will become one
Correct,
title.
correct. So
Okay.
those organizational duties should be spelled out in that one committee. All three of those committees, organizational duties, spelled out in that one.
Under that one, so
There is
public,
There
there is
isn't that.
nothing to define our committees at all. So
That's-
you're saying that it should be now a
There
task
used
to
to be.
define it?
Well, there used to,
That's why I called Devin, because I'm trying to figure out what I have to, in the Parks Committee, Parks and Property, until we change it, has to come up with a new 5-year plan, because our last one expired, and I need that to be able to apply for at least the DNR grants in Michigan. So we have to have basically a mission statement.
So maybe once we do this reorganization, that each committee should work on a description of duties. No?
sure. No, it's
I'm
fine,
looking at.
whatever you guys
I-
want.
Well, we should have a.
There's just not
mission.
any now, I
I
mean, there's
think we're
not,
just looking at her plate getting taller.
yeah.
No, I'm looking at a lot of different, I guess I think it can be done. I'm concerned as you put committees and then what? Yes, it
I-
sounds complicated and I think it can be simplified.
Yeah, I think what we've done, at least so far, during my term as mayor, is when an issue has come up, an ordinance, for example, that needed some correction, revision, or a new one, we, as having standing committees, said, as a council, let's assign that to the ordinance committee.
Correct.
It's just assumed, I guess, that the ordinance committee would work on anything related to an ordinance. It gets a little more unknown when you're talking about personnel committee and labor negotiations committee. If we, needed one, which one would be assigned the task, so to speak. And that's why we're having standing committees as opposed to the previous mayor who did not have standing committees. During that term, he preferred to assign a committee at the moment something was needed.
He calls them work groups.
Work groups, okay, there we go, work groups. Where I, not knowing the council well at all, felt it might just be better to have at least a standing committee to say, there you go.
And I agree with that concept.
Okay,
But like I said, I think we can merge some of these.
okay. Knowing then that what we'll do is merge them, Personnel Committee and Labor Negotiations Committee will become one group called Personnel Committee. And then Public Works, Health and Safety, Police Commission, and then Safety, Law Enforcement Committee, they would be one group with one title.
Are we calling them a safety committee,
I would say health and safety,
health and safety?
Okay,
And
or
then-
public safety.
So can we do, so the title is Health and Safety Committee, and then in like font of like 8 underneath, in parentheses, to kind of say this is Public Works, this is law enforcement, something in that order. And then
Yes.
the same thing with Personnel Committee, this would include labor
negotiation.
HR policy, et cetera, yes.
Yeah, and,
Yes.
and Bob, with what you were saying, the mission statement, our 5-year plan never asked our Parks and Property to have that. I mean, the person that we had working on it included it for the city, not for the Parks and Property, but if that's what you were trying to,
I'm trying
do.
to make sure I'm, whatever the word I'm looking for, compliant with whatever grants we want to apply for. I don't know if that's what they need exactly, but.
did that go dry again? Because I thought we had reached out to the college and we were moving forward and
Oh.
they were gonna look for interns and then charge us a little bit more probably than the last time, but it was, to me, it was very reasonable. The last, I think it was $2,500 they charged us to do the 5-year plan for us.
Our treasurer's coming to my meeting Tuesday.
Megan
Okay.
is,
Megan,
okay, all right.
thank you.
Mhm.
I lost my
Yeah.
name and my
Okay.
head for it. And then I'm gonna get some details,
Okay,
because their plans, I don't know what they're proposing to give us for their fee. Because we have to do a new, we may not have to do a whole new plan, I know we have to petition the citizens again, see what their priorities are, those kinds of things.
And they'll do all that. You say we, and they will do all of that for us. They will put it together and all of that. So I just want to make sure.
And that's great information that I
That was-
did not have 10 minutes ago.
So, yeah, so it's like, no wonder why he's stressing. He's got this long name, he's trying to find the mission statement, and I'm like, these guys will do it all. And you're right, I think that they can take a lot what we have. And I want to say Megan has talked to them, and it'll be an inflation increase. Even though they're using a lot of the same things, the work that's involved because of the survey and that has to be updated and everything, it'll be about the same. And council, I want to say that came out of general budget the last time we did it. It didn't affect the parks budget when we went through it the first time. And actually, the planning commission did it. They were the ones that.
Yeah, that's a overlapping thing, I think, on that the planning commission and the parks.
No
that
rules again?
That plan.
Somebody
so.
decided to take the initiative is all I meant by it, and you're the initiative, and I don't want you to feel overwhelmed, because if you come with a report and council supports it, they do a really nice job, and they will make it.
It'll probably be a grad student or something from Michigan State that needs it for their degree in public spaces, I would imagine.
Are we talking what the planning commission did for master plan?
Nope.
No,
Okay.
that's is on.
They did take it one step beyond, if you recall, and the 5-year park plan was put in front of planning commission. And then because Brad had connections with MSU, he actually reached out, and so the parks kind of hubbed and led to get the 5-year plan done. And then it expired out in 2018. It was expired out, and Bob's trying to get it back in.
we need that we need it upgraded for grant applications.
Most grants are probably gonna require something along those lines.
Yeah,
And then, how do we plan on using the money and those things? That's what I meant by master plan, or a mission statement, but.
and I would feel free to reach out to James Hissong, just asking him for any guidance,
Okay.
if you feel you need to do that. He would be happy to help you with that, I'm sure. So, with these 5 groups, if I'm understanding correctly, if anybody has a strong desire to serve on one or the other of them, if you would relay that to me, I'll try to get this set up so at our next meeting you can all see where you'll serve now. Because we'll have, instead of instead of 8, not counting the McQueen House Committee, because we're not doing anything with that, we'll have 5 committees. And so if you have a desire and you know right now what one you want to serve on, tell me and I'll write it down. If you're not sure, you can email it to me at a later time.
One thing I would like to do, Sue, is, I know you talked about taking business affairs and just call it technology committee.
Yeah?
I propose we call it communication technology committee, because the
Okay.
reality is, if you remember, we did a
Yes.
fair amount of work with how are we gonna improve communications with the businesses and the residents.
Yes.
And I look at the website as really an outgrowth of trying to improve our communications
Okay.
with the
Yeah.
residents.
I like that. Okay, Communications and Technology Committee.
do you want a brief, do you feel you need a definition of what this committee does? I mean, I just don't want to have a whole policy created for each one. Is it a paragraph? Bob, I know this is driving you crazy, and I'm like, you ain't gonna find it. Keep looking, you are not gonna find what they are. The way I explained it to Bob is the way I was taught was that these standing committees have a common sense title to it, and so if there is an issue that pertains to that directive, then the people are already appointed to it. Steve, can you go in your vault and find out these definitions
I
for
will
me?
see if I can.
Because they might appreciate it, but
I will
whole
look
time, I have never seen
And I'll
it.
try to remember, but I can remember when City Hall used to be downtown. And I swore that we had definitions there.
Okay, well, and throwing small definitions I think would be perfect.
Yeah, brief description, no longer than a paragraph of
What they're
what
supposed
the
to do.
responsibilities would
Right.
be, or encompassed. Not to be held just to what was in the description, but
No, it's more of
there may be.
A guideline?
Correct.
and then each council member, as they come on council, as they get appointed to a committee, then there's guidelines of require, please come to the meetings, if possible, blah, blah, blah. The reason the property thing is because I brought, like I said, we own the Mcqueen house, we have the building here, we have what properties, and what am I supposed to do regarding those properties? And we own the piece down there that we're talking about selling, am I supposed to go police it, make sure that John's doing his job to pick up the garbage, or, I don't know, it's just, so.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense Parks can be a huge committee, as you're finding, in and of itself. And truly, our DPW does take care of the properties, so I don't see any reason for
Right.
that to be redundant. Anything else? We can work on this and bring it back next time, okay? Work in progress to revisit. And if you do decide what you want to serve on, let me know. Otherwise, I'll just pick and choose. Okey dokey. Any other business to come before council? Any other public comment anybody would like to bring?
I just have.
Go ahead.
If you call Congressman Molinar, you'll find that there's a significant amount of federal funding that can be used for municipalities for whatever enhancement or infrastructure. It'd be nice if Morris Road could get fixed.
It's out of our jurisdiction.
Right.
But thanks. We have actually a Zoom meeting tomorrow, sponsored by Debbie Stabenow's office, that's talking about infrastructure money that we're attending in the morning. So, it's available, information is available through a lot of sources, but we appreciate you bringing his name up. Okay, I think we can move then to our demonstration of the new website.
Okay, just a couple minutes here to, if you wouldn't mind with that, take it black down, I'll get the.
Have you seen this yet?
I've been on it.
Okay. It's pretty cool.
I was on Phil Devin looking for what I was.
Oh, okay.
Everything went to sleep while it was,
Yeah.
on.
Get that okay? Okay, what we've tried to strive for in our new website is to try to make the homepage as clean and simple as possible without as much information directly on it. And I'm not going to try to go through everything that's on here, but we've tried to simplify some of the content and lead you to other places within the website. But let me start by saying that this new website is exactly the same website location that the old one was. You go to perry.mi.us to actually access it now on the internet. We do have a direct link to our city Facebook page right up here at the top, and you can use the search button any place to search throughout our entire website. We have a home button that you can get back to this home screen at any point in time. And then we've taken away a number of our drop downs, if you want to call them that we had on the old website. So for community, we've got About Us, business organizations, the Mcqueen House that you've heard us speak of, a link to the local food bank information that's provided to us, a little bit of Perry history, some information that the city library has provided, as well as SATA public transportation, and list all of our local worship site organizations. And it's as simple as a quick click to any of these particular ones. I'll just pick the business organization, and those local businesses that wanted to be included on our website, we have in fact listed them and have a link to their individual pages. Whenever you go to a drop-down page, you'll also see that same drop-down listing that you have here, so it's easy to get back to wherever you previously were. On all of the pages, you'll see this little red arrow down in the lower right-hand corner. That will take you back to the top of any given page that you're on to try to help with navigation. And you'll be opening a new tab or web page anytime, so I'm going to close that particular one and take me back to the home page. I'm going to go across here. We list the officials. We have city officials listed, as well as county officials, the little brief history, as well as each of the council members then have the bio that existed on the old website transferred over. And once again, I'm going to go over to departments. We've listed all of the public works departments, basically all of the information that previously existed on the old site has transferred over. We're just trying to make it hopefully a whole lot quicker for people to find what they're looking for. I'm going to just go down to city representatives in that particular pick. And on some of these, where it previously had been a long table of names, there is a table of contents at the top. If you just click the down arrow and I want to find out, just for example, who's on the planning commission, click on planning commission and it's automatically going to take us to the current planning commission membership. Likewise, any of the other table of contents. And once again, that lower right corner down arrow gets us right back, or up arrow gets us right back to the top of that page. If you want to see any of the videos from the council meeting videos, that particular link is going to take us out to the list of actual YouTube videos that previously existed on our other site, but we've moved it up near the top, so it's an easy access for folks to be able to gain access to all of our previously recorded videos. And then up at the top, the last drop-down arrow basically is Sue's or the mayor's desk monthly letters. Clicking on that will take you to her last 2 previously published letters that have appeared on the website. In the past, they've been difficult to find. It's the same letter that we in turn post over at Carl's information board as well. Then each of what we've called buttons or quick links, if you want to get to our city calendar, a quick link is going to take you to a list of the holiday activity that we have for the year and show our monthly calendar with any currently scheduled city activities, whether it be our council meeting, planning commission, special meetings. It has the finance and ordinance meeting that I spoke of earlier is listed on here, and you can then scroll to any other calendar month. And I'm just going to go back to the home page. Activities and events. Lists a few photos of past events. Our program that we have for merchant recognition, put your best face forward. I won't take time right now, but you can go to past award winners for that, as well as our Perry Pride Resident Award. And we've got a link for any upcoming events. And you'd be able to get to, for example, our Christmas light winners that we had, the snow sculpture competition that Sue spoke of earlier. And I believe we've previously talked about the sled library that's at our sledding hill or Mudge Hill here adjacent to the City Hall. We tried to look at what were some of the key resident resources, that if you're a resident looking to find any information about utility bills, what our yard waste pickup and calendar is. We do have the opportunity for free wood chips from our DPW activity, etc. Those are all just quick links to the specific information for that. I'm going to go back to that for one quick second here. I want to scroll down also to highlight that at that point we have emergency phone numbers and websites, as well as a number of other informational phone numbers available, whether it be for important numbers, emergency assistance, for food bank or clothing, etc., are also quick links under a resident resource button. Tax and utility payments. You click on that button, it's going to take you out to our BS&A website for tax payment information. Our city's charter ordinance is cataloged on an external website, and this takes you all of our city, what we call codified ordinances for the city. With that click, and you can get into any of our various city ordinances off on the left-hand side. Any questions relative to our zoning ordinance is going to take you to the city's PDF file for current city zoning ordinance information. Application and permits. Once again, you see that table of contents, that if you wanted to get any facility rental information, you can click there. We also have a separate facility rental button that I'll get to. Anybody has any questions from folks that are here, certainly, or things to add, certainly let me know. And I mentioned we have a separate facility rental button now. Just for those that don't know, we do offer rental of our community room as well as the council chambers that we're in. We give a little description of the size and a couple of photos of the community room, council chambers, and provide the calendar so you know whether or not the facility is available for rental, and also the appropriate application form that needs to be completed. Up here at the top, you can click and see what our, takes you to the fee page to see what the cost is for deposit and rental of the facilities. And likewise, our park activity for the Veterans Memorial Pavilion, as well as Jubilee Park Pavilion, and the associated calendar and application for that as well. You want to see any of the particular fees for the city, rather than have to scroll through a big table. If you want to know what the facility rental, another way to get the facility rental information, why did that show up?
It'll pop up.
I got a pop there as well. It takes you to our table of fees. Parks and Recreation button talks about facility. Another place you can get facility rental. If you happen to get in Parks and Rec, it's going to take you back over to the facility rental page, as well as if you'd like to make a donation to our Park and Recreation Fund, it'll take you to the appropriate information required to do that. And we've got a little thermometer showing what the contribution level has been for donations to that particular fund.
Can you click on the donate button? Okay, thank you.
Yep, that takes it basically, that takes you to a combined page that if you wanted to make, I didn't go to that particular button on the Mcqueen House page, but it gives you the information to make a donation to the Mcqueen House Fund, and the lower portion that explains how to make a donation to the Park and Recreation Fund.
Mm-hmm.
And then assessing information takes you back to the DSNA page for any help with assessor information. And the last one that we picked up from some other websites and thought it was a nice feature, if you don't know exactly where you should be, go to the I Want To button. And basically it's going to list some of the things that we've seen as what might you like to do. I want to apply for a permit. I want to donate to one of the funds that I just spoke of. I want to do give the gift of water, which is something that we have here within the city. It's been an item that's been on our old website homepage, but this allows you to find it quickly and takes you to the form that's required if you'd like to complete and make a donation for helping those less fortunate with their water bill payments. Didn't want that. I'm still learning some of this myself. Okay, we'll get back to homepage. One thing that I forgot to mention that's also on this homepage, if you scroll down just a little bit, we've tried to highlight in two areas. One is upcoming meetings and events. Tried to say, and we'll take a snapshot of the next basically 2 months worth of recognized meetings or events that we have coming up, whether it be a council meeting, the January recycling activity that we participate in with the Langsburg area, etc. And off on the right lower section, we highlight some important information activities, just reminding everyone of the sculpture competition, things like COVID, where to get a link to get Shiawassee Health Department information, the fact that we do have the opportunity for people to come in and purchase dog licenses. That list of items will rotate based on what are the items of highest interest. They're available in other places on the website, but we wanted to try to highlight those for folks as some of the most pertinent and timely pieces of information. That's a real quick overview, but at least we believe those that's worked on it, worked with the old site and with this one, that we've hopefully streamlined things to make information far more accessible and easy to dive in and find. Anything for anybody else here that they'd like to add?
I'd just like to reiterate what Larry said earlier, appreciation to everybody that worked on this, from the committee to the staff, Dory, Portman, Devin, Shirley certainly was involved with it as well. All of our department heads who put information regarding their departments in, and then the company that created it, Shoemaker.
Shoemaker Group.
So yes, thank you, very
You guys
nice.
did a wonderful job.
It's night and day from the last
Oh,
one.
yeah.
The only thing, I would, maybe on the meetings, maybe we should add, the CESA board meetings on that, things like that. So if anybody interested in our community wants to go to those things, they make it more readily available to know what it is, or when it is.
Any of the groups that send us their schedule or let us know, we usually do put it on there. They are regular, we can get that on there, but we actually have groups that will tell us their yearly schedule. And so, that's an easy request.
Yep.
If there's somebody you think we are forgetting, though, you are gonna have to reach out to us, because that's why the people that are on our calendars is because we actually get a schedule each year to remind us.
As I say, there's a lot more information. I try to just go a quick overview and let people know how to navigate through it. We are in the throes right now of getting some folks here to allow for routine updates. Our agreement with Shoemaker is they will help, but just a reminder, they will help with the maintenance if we've got the calendar date changes, etc. They will provide the service of continued updates to our site as well.
Do you think we'd want to create a link, or maybe there is one here somewhere, to the schools? If somebody was looking at our website, they just moved or were thinking of moving and wanted information on schools, they're thinking of it right then, so if they see a button that says
Resident
Perry
resource.
Public
Perry
Schools,
Public Schools.
and it could just link them right over. If we could do that, that'd probably be.
Yep.
Are you thinking
I don't
of resident resource?
Yeah, under resident resource would probably be a good spot.
That would be a good add. No, that's a great one. We'll,
Or if we even put it under, I want to get information on the schools, maybe a
Yeah.
couple spots.
very good. I just wanted to give everybody an opportunity
Yeah.
to see it, and for those that make their way through the entire video, if they have any questions, certainly get in touch with anyone at City Hall, or get in touch with myself, and we'll do our best to accommodate. Thank you.
Excellent. Yes, it's wonderful.
Thank you.
Do we have any agenda items for next meeting we want to make note of, council? Committees, yep, we'll put that on.
Let me move this so we're not blinding anybody here.
I know the poverty exemption resolution that has to be done annually will be placed on the next meeting to be compliant for our assessor of the state.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? Okay. Meeting is adjourned at 8:29. Thank you all for coming.